but it's not all men. Throughout the last week, from International Women's Day, Meghan Markle being publicly shamed, the heightened discussion around sexual assault following the murder of Sarah Everard, there's been a lot of discussion of women and how we discuss men's involvement in society and policing what women can and can't say. I'm going to break this down into a few categories, like I did in the last video, just to make it a bit more concise. A disclaimer I want to give in this video is that throughout this video I'm going to use the terms women and men, and I want to use this to include people who are female presenting and masculine presenting. In this sense, when I talk about women, talking about female sexual assault, this includes female presenting people who are frequently assaulted too because of their appearance, and I do not mean to exclude anyone from this discussion. The perception of your gender based on how you present from the people who are abusing women in the street, rather than actually your gender identity, and I'm sorry if you don't feel that this applies to you. So the concept of not all men is brought up when women discuss their experience of sexual assault as a way to say to a woman, usually by a man, that it isn't all men who sexually assault. For example, the person saying not all men wouldn't sexually assault them. The intent seems to be supportive of these women, but it's far from it. Very little of the brave women who come forward and talk about sexual assault have said all men. They may have said men as a way to identify and group together the people who they are afraid of because of the experience that they've had. But at no point have I seen women say all men rape women or all men sexually assault women. So when you come from a position where a woman opens up about a man who has assaulted her and instantly jump to the defense of, well, I wouldn't assault you, I wouldn't have assaulted her, that's in no way helpful, and it doesn't offer support to the woman and doesn't come across as a compliment either. You shouldn't have to specify you wouldn't assault a woman, and no one is accusing you of doing so. If I say I don't leave the house at night out of fear that a man will assault, hurt, kill me, and you retaliate by saying not all men, you are not understanding the concept that it is too many men, and we don't have a way of identifying it when we are in public, which men will hurt us and which men will help us. If I knew exactly which men would hurt me, then maybe I would say I don't leave the house at night out of fear that Jeff will hurt me. But the point is, I don't know which men, I don't know their names. I know that the identifier and the appearance of these people look masculine presenting, they look like men. But if you do the things I advise later in this video and have been shared across the internet over the last week or so, then I will have more confidence, and women in public will have more confidence, that you will not be one of the people who will hurt them in public. When women say men when discussing sexual assault, when it's very clear they're talking specifically about men who sexually assault, why are you getting offended? Have you done something in the past that you know is a bit creepy? Did you not have full consent and you only realised afterwards? If you knew that in the past you had not been someone who had committed sexual assault, in all senses of the word, not just rape but also groping in clubs, catcalling, following, breaching boundaries and sometimes laws to chat up a girl, then you should have no problem with the fact that women are saying that they have been assaulted by men. It isn't like a fixed connotation of the word that if you were in a job interview and they saw you were a man, they would throw away your application. It's simply a way to identify with the fact that most people who assault women and other genders are men. Further to this point, unfortunately it's more than just the men who do go and rape and sexually assault women. We don't live in a society where men who assault women are tossed aside, but instead it is concepts that are deeply ingrained in our society, education and much of our thinking patterns. For example, little girls are told at school that if a boy pulls her hair it's because he likes her and doesn't know how to show it, creating a thinking pattern that associates abuse with affection. A post on Instagram that I thought was really insightful was made by @feepaints. I'll put a link to their account and their post down below, and she talked about how some of the men that are included in this discourse of not all men are not just those who physically abuse women, and I thought I'd mention a few of the examples that they gave to illustrate my point. The ones who look the other way on a night out because it's none of my business, the ones who make rape jokes, the ones who think the discussion of sexual assault is too political, the ones who don't say anything, the ones who say boys will be boys, the ones who send unsolicited dick pics, the ones who think no is the start of a negotiation, the ones who bring up false accusations to discredit all women, which we'll get onto, the ones who secretly remove condoms, which is illegal, the ones who feel attacked by this list instead of ashamed, the ones who want a girl to be tight when they have sex with her, even though that shows usually that they're not in the mood. I made an infographic on Instagram a couple of days ago talking about what men can do to make women feel safer, and a lot of this advice I will discuss later in the video. But I wanted to address here a comment that I had on this post, that I had a bit of an argument with this guy because he did not get it. He stated that he thinks he shouldn't have to alter his behaviour in order to not be labelled or seen as a sexual offender, meaning this in terms of some of the smaller things men can do for women. For example, cross the street, overtake if they are going to be in the same direction behind a woman so she doesn't think she's being followed. Fair that you don't want to be labelled as a sex offender. Me neither. I don't want to be labelled or label you as a sex offender if you're not. If you don't do anything that women have issues with, like following, staring, you won't be labelled as a sex offender. And in terms of not wanting to change your behaviour, we're not asking for that much. If you'd rather a woman thinks you're following her, even if it's just by the chance that you're going in the same direction, than cross the road to know, so that person knows that you're not following them, then I think that says a lot about you as a person. Sit down, listen to women every so often. Every woman I know has been sexually assaulted in some way, and you discrediting how they feel, what they experienced, a fear that they have of being assaulted again, a fear you may never experience, and lucky you for that, is just showing to all women in your life that you shouldn't be in their lives. Look at your behaviour, check with yourself. Did she consent to that? Did she take a bit of time to consent? Did you not even wait to hear what she had to say about the matter? Did you sexualise her for simply just existing? Did you shame a girl with an OnlyFans only to go and wank off to porn later on? Do you only like consuming porn when you know a man is at the top and he is the one getting the money and capitalising off this woman's body, and a woman shouldn't be able to capitalise off her own body? Did you remove a condom because it feels better and didn't tell her? Did you know that that's not only illegal and classifies as sexual assault? With this topic, my brain automatically goes to the case of Brett Kavanaugh. People were turning and saying, "You ruined that man's life with false accusations." First off, how can a man's life be ruined who is on the Supreme Court? I'd love to have my life ruined and be one of the most powerful people in the world. False accusations are extremely unlikely, but women aren't saying they don't happen. Of course false accusations happen, and that is an awful thing to go through if you were to ever experience it. And if you do experience it, the person accusing you could go to prison for providing false accusations. However, they are extremely unlikely to have happened. And you tell me someone who's actually had genuine false accusations about them? And if you can, was it actually? Or was it a cross of boundaries, miscommunication of consent rather than some vengeful random attack? Is your friend telling you the girl is lying about being assaulted, or is the man lying to you about how into it the girl was because he doesn't want to come across as someone who violates boundaries to his mates, but also doesn't want to come across as someone that women don't want to have sex with? And if you thought about it and realised you do not know anybody who has been falsely accused of sexual assault, another thing, do you know a woman who has told you they've been sexually assaulted? What's the likelihood that every woman in your life has experienced sexual assault, but none of the men in your life have faced false allegations? One more thing. How many times has a man in your life expressed that he's been assaulted, sexually assaulted? You might say none, but is it still more likely than they were to have been falsely accused of rape? Have you created an environment where they feel like they can't tell you they've been assaulted? This brings me on to my next topic. So, a woman tells you she's been sexually assaulted, and your next thought is, well, men get assaulted too. Think to yourself, 1, how is this a way to criticise female sexual assault? And 2, do you talk about male sexual assault at any other point than when a woman tells you she's been assaulted? For women to talk about sexual assault publicly, when a woman has just been murdered by a police officer, when the vigil for said woman was raided by police, turning a peaceful protest once again into an over-policed event, that does not discredit that men are assaulted. In fact, many of the suggestions that women are suggesting men do to protect them from being assaulted, or the fear of them being assaulted, would also protect men from being assaulted, because guess what? The majority of men who are assaulted by men. Further to that, no one is saying that women don't assault anybody, but it isn't a current societal issue as it happens less often. It's a personal issue that does need to be addressed in terms of legislation, as does male sexual assault, but when we are discussing one issue as a society, that doesn't mean the other issues are forgotten. Just like all lives matter is an issue to discuss when people are talking about Black Lives Matter issues. Because even though all lives do matter, only Black lives are being talked about right now because it's more relevant and because there's threat to their lives. And not because they want to be. I'm sure both women and Black people in their respective social issues would rather not have the issues they go through so we can discuss all lives matter and men who don't assault women. But the point is, it's an important issue right now that needs to be discussed. Doesn't mean the other issues aren't important. Adding to my first bullet point, therefore, across all sexualities and all genders of those being attacked, men are the people who are assaulting both men and women, suggesting even more that we can say that men are the problem. So, as a man, what can you do? I recently, as I said, created an infographic on Instagram with some info that I saw on Twitter, but I thought I'd relay this here. If a woman is clearly being bothered by a man, unwanted attention, following, etc., go over and support her if you deem it safe. Pretend to be a family member, a friend, a brother, a boyfriend, and ask if she is okay and say that you're waiting for her. It would help the woman escape the situation, and if she clearly shoves you off, then she is okay and doesn't need your help. If you're walking, especially at night, behind a woman, try and leave some space between you and her if you're following the same route. Especially for a while, maybe cross the road and overtake her so she knows she isn't being followed. Avoid any discussion of not all men. What about male sexual assault? What about false allegations? Especially when a woman is opening up to you about how she was assaulted. Bear in mind it won't be easy for her, so just listen and offer support how you see fit. Defend women when they're being victim blamed and stop asking questions like, are you sure that's what happened? Are you sure you didn't say yes? What were you wearing? If you defend women in this situation, as it doesn't fucking matter what a woman was wearing when she was assaulted, it can help change the societal narrative of women being the issue. When clubs reopen later this year, don't put your hands on a woman as a way to seduce them. For example, touching a girl from behind by holding her hips, her chest, etc. It sounds somewhat innocent, but can make a woman feel very uncomfortable. I can attest to that, especially considering it often leads to casual assault that clubs do not take action on. Just talk to them, dance with them, buy them a drink at the bar. Don't bring them a drink, because a woman's not going to drink that. One of the concerns I've seen on Twitter is, how does a man court a woman with all these rules? Just be respectful. Women will have different boundaries, and if you don't know them, just assume they have very protective boundaries and don't want to be touched. If they say no, don't follow them or pressure them or try and find out their name or anything like that. Just leave them the fuck alone. Don't act like it's a woman's fault for not going for the nice guys. She's not attracted to you, dude. No matter how nice you think you are, if a woman tells you she doesn't like you, that's not because she's going for the bad guys, it's because she's going for the guys she likes, and you being a nice guy isn't going to change her opinions of you. Also, I've been given this one a lot. If a woman tells you she's gay and you're trying to hit on her, don't say things like, well, I can turn you straight. You've never tried this dick. Are you sure? They're sure. Nobody wants, if they're gay, they don't want your crusty dick. They don't want to be turned straight, and obviously you're not going to be the person to turn them straight, so stop saying this shit to women. The main way to avoid assault occurring and you're not aware of it until sometime after is communication and reassurance. Check with your partner when you're having sex with them with, is this okay? Can I do this? You may think it might be a turn off in the situation, but sexual assault is much more of a turn off. If a woman asks you to wear a condom, just fucking do it. Or don't have sex with her. But definitely don't take it off halfway through without telling her. Get regular testing. Don't fuck anyone if you know you have something. Also, don't avoid getting tested when you have symptoms because you think it takes away your blame. If you are working and think a girl is cute, you can say that to her face. She might say thanks and not continue the conversation, and that's fine, she's allowed to do that. But don't sexualize a girl you've never met. Don't break confidentiality regulations at your job to find out their number or address. If you delivered something to someone and know where they live, that doesn't give you a right to visit their house in an unprofessional setting. I read so many cases of women on Twitter talking about how they'd been harassed by delivery drivers who knew where they lived, who texted them and broke confidentiality laws at their work to talk to them. And those women couldn't report those men because those men knew where she lived, or they lived. Above all else, you don't have to do too much to help women from being assaulted and keeping them safe. As long as you, one, are not assaulting women. This includes like microaggressions in terms of rape jokes and victim blaming. And listen to women speak without coming out with some of the crap I've detailed. Then you will not be labelled as a sexual assaulter or a sex offender. Support the women not only in your life, but the women you encounter on the street. I've mostly noted the less obvious things that you as a man can do to avoid both making a woman feel unsafe as well as avoiding assaulting someone. But the obvious goes of don't assault women, don't assault anyone. You aren't owed anything, you're not entitled to anybody's body or anybody's time. If they say no, they fucking said no. It isn't that hard. With that, I'm going to end this video here. I'm going to leave some resources down below that you can have a little look at, learn a bit of information about, and some of the things that I've used to help make this video what I wanted it to be. Thank you for watching. I will see you soon.